Welcome to the Hey Legal Quiz with me, Edith Forrest. The aim of this quiz is to provide some light-hearted entertainment during lockdown and beyond. I'll be asking 20 questions of leading Scottish legal figures, questions which give insight to their careers and their lives beyond the law. So let's begin. Okay, so thank you very much. We are joined today by the Vice Dean of Faculty, Roddy Dunlop, who's kindly agreed to answer our 22 challenging questions. So thank you very much, Roddy, for joining us.
Not at all. Delighted to be here.
From the white hot heat of Edinburgh, it looks like. It looks lovely there.
Indeed, yeah, the sun is shining.
All right, well, we'll just get started then. So the first question is, if you weren't a lawyer, what would you be?
Unemployed. Being a lawyer is the only job I've ever been any good at. So I genuinely can't imagine doing any job other than the one that I do.
Okay, and have you always, is that all you've ever wanted, to be a lawyer?
Yeah, pretty sad. From a very early age, that's really all I wanted, all I could envisage doing, all I wanted to do. So, I mean, I have as well. Let's come on to had other jobs, but not really anything else that had ever tweaked my attention or caught my interest in the way that law has. Okay, all right. Question number 2 is, did you have a nickname at school, and if so, what was it and why were you given it? It's a very embarrassing question, or it's a very embarrassing answer. I didn't really have a nickname at school until I went to Scripture Union camp as a teenager, and I came back from that Scripture Union camp with the nickname of Rhino, which I really liked, and I desperately tried to persuade the people at school to adopt this as my new nickname, with no success whatsoever, until many years later close friends of mine learnt of that story and started with a significant degree of irony and indeed cruelty to refer to me as Rhino. So it is now my nickname. I wanted it to be my nickname, but it wasn't until my latter years. Okay, and so why were you called Rhino? Do you know why they nicknamed you Rhino? I think it was my ability or lack thereof on the football pitch, which just involved charging head down along the pitch. My footballing abilities are very limited. Rugby is the only sport I've ever had any success in, and they weren't playing rugby at Scripture Union camp, only football. Okay, all right. Okay, question number 3 is, were you a swotty type at school? I suppose I was in part. I mean, I've always been very into rugby. I was the captain of the rugby team, so that maybe allowed me to avoid the swotty image too much. Mm-hmm. But I was. Some of my classmates will have told you I was the teacher's pet as well. On my last day in primary school, just going back to my lack of footballing ability, my last day of primary school, I broke the kitchen window with a football and went to tell the headmistress that I'd done so, but was able to take the pain away from that by simultaneously presenting her with a side of smoked salmon that my mum had given me to take to the headmistress to thank her for my primary school education. Mrs. Robertson still talks fondly of that broken window and that side of smoked salmon. A proper little souk then. A proper little souk. I didn't have an apple. Smoked salmon had to do. Okay. Question number 4 is, what was your first job? My first job was as a bouncer. I was the world's worst bouncer. I was a bar there just on Waverley Steps, and sorry, Roddy, I was the recording just got interrupted a little bit there. We just heard. Right, sorry. I was a bouncer. Okay. A bouncer at a cafe bar in Edinburgh that's no longer there. Right. I don't think its failure has anything to do with my inability as a bouncer, but I was a truly terrible bouncer. And every afternoon it would be, or every evening it would be like, why did you let them in? Well, they looked okay to me. They're 16. Go and put them out. So, yeah, I was not very good, but it was entertaining and it paid very well in my first year at university. And did it just last the first year? How long did you do it for? Yeah, it just lasted the first year. I was not welcomed back after my first stint of, I think, 3 months. I was away for the summer, came back, and oh no, we've found someone else who's a bit handier.
Okay. Question number 5 is, how do you define success?
How do I define success? Fulfillment, being happy that you've done a good job. It's not always about winning. In litigation, as you know, there always has to be a loser. But I consider I've succeeded if I've put my client's case forward with all of my ability, given them a fair crack of the whip, and put them in the best position that they can be to try and win their case. That to me is success. But equally, I would be lying if I suggested that failure in the sense of losing a case is not the hardest thing to bear. I am very, very poor at losing cases. I try not to let it affect me too much, but I really don't like it.
Okay. Question number 6, your favourite drink?
I'm very unimaginative in this regard. Lager, please. Anything cold and fizzy, and at the moment, anything cold and fizzy and served in a pub would be incredibly welcome.
Question number 7 is, what don't you like about your job?
Nothing. I wasn't lying earlier. I've got the perfect job. I enjoy it so much. I find it fulfilling. I find it rewarding. I find it exciting. I'm almost never bored by anything that's in front of me. I don't have a downside to it.
Okay. Unusual response, but very. I'm sure you're very pleased about that.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. All right. Question number 8 is, what was your most memorable case to date? I should probably say one of the ones that's been in the Supreme Court, but I think the most memorable one to date, or the most the one that's been most challenging and most of long-lasting import, would be the White House case just decided last year when 5 judges overturned. 5 judges explained that centuries-long understanding that the Lord Advocate was immune from suit in civil procedure was actually wrong, and that the Lord Advocate has no such immunity. It was a great case to be in, but it's probably one of the most important cases I've been in, just in terms of the constitutional importance and the importance of the legal framework. Okay, all right. Question number 9. Tell me one thing that would surprise me about you.
I don't know if it would surprise you or not. You may know this, but the thing that's possibly most surprising for some people is my irrepressible love of heavy metal music. I've been to see Iron Maiden 10 times live in concert. I've got a deep-seated and enduring love of all things metal. Basically, my music taste began at age 14 and has never matured since. So I'm still there.
Oh my goodness! Oh, good. Question number 10. What traits in others irritate you the most?
A refusal to take responsibility for one's actions. I find it so often in society these days, it's never your fault, it's somebody else's fault. I don't like that. If it's we've got to take personal responsibility for what we do.
Okay, all right. Question number 11, straightforward one. Favourite flavour of crisps?
I don't eat crisps. My body's a temple. or the true answer, kettle chips, sour cream and. Have you frozen or have I frozen?
I think we both froze. I think we got kettle chips, sour cream and chive. Was that it? Yeah.
Sour cream and chili.
Chili? Oh,
sour
chili.
Cream and chili. Yeah.
I haven't heard of that flavour. Okay.
They're good.
Need to try them.
Other crisps are available.
All right. Question number 12 is, what book would you recommend everyone should read?
Very tempted to give a very cerebral answer to this, but I don't do an awful lot of cerebral reading. So my recommendation that everyone should read is Stephen King's It. best book ever. Fact.
Okay. All right. Question number 13. Do you have any irrational fears?
I have many, many fears, but they are all entirely rational.
Okay. All right. 14 is oldest pair of shoes.
Another embarrassing one. A pair of Lublin cowboy boots I bought in 1986, which I still have and indeed wore last Halloween.
Okay. As part of a guise, or are these things that see the light of day on a regular basis?
No. This Antonia and I went as a cowboy and saloon girl, dead cowboy and saloon girl. So we had the full skull makeup on, but as I had to be a cowboy, I had my own pair of cowboy boots.
Okay. Did they feel good wearing them? Do you remember why you bought them when you slipped your feet into them?
I did not. And more than that, in order to get them on, because they've kind of collapsed over the years, it is essential to put a poly bag over one's right foot before doing so. So that was that's always interesting.
Oh dear. Question 15. Who has had the biggest influence on your career in the law?
I was asked that by the Times in an article following the White House case. And suppose I ought to stick to the same answer because it is the true answer. And the answer I gave then and I give now is two people. My father for really introducing me to the law and indeed to the bar, and Lord Malcolm. Then Colin Campbell QC for my first trip to the House of Lords. He was the opponent in that case, and his advocacy was absolutely superb. And really showed me how you could do it in a way that was different from I'd seen it done before. It was, a lot of the formality was absent. He was just utterly engaging, right to the point, and knocked our case for 6.
Okay, all right. Question 16. Favourite chocolate bar?
I really don't have one. I'm not a big fan of chocolate. I can't remember the last time I ate a chocolate bar. Sorry.
Okay, no, that's the right answer then. Question 17. What is the fanciest event you have ever been to?
I'm not sure. I've been to many events that one would describe as truly fancy. I probably have to say the Tumbling Lassie Ball last year, and that only because the end result of that was for myself and Antonia to end up in the centre pages of Scottish Field, a publication I've not featured in before or since. All thanks to Claire Mitchell QC. But yeah, so that probably counts as being as fancy as I've got thus far.
Okay, all right. Question 18 is, what quirks do you have?
What quirks do I have that haven't already been covered in terms of wearing cowboy boots and liking heavy metal? I'm not sure I can think of anything other than that. Well, I suppose I have a photographic memory for certain things, but absolutely not for others. So, for example, I'll never forget a case name. I will always forget a face. I'm absolutely hopeless with names and faces. But if you put them into a law report, I'll remember who they are.
Good stuff. Oh dear. Question 19. What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
It's becoming a bit of a refrain, I know, but to go down I grew up with equally guided by a father and a stepfather, and my stepfather was very keen, he having been a stockbroker throughout his life and very much a corporate animal. He was very keen to stay within the firm. You're cosseted by the protection of the firm, of the salary, of the pension, of the company car. So he was very keen that I go into the solicitor side of the profession for that reason. Sorry to interrupt you. We just the link broke just as you said what the best piece of advice was. Could you just repeat that? Sorry, yes. In what is becoming somewhat of a refrain, the best advice I ever had was to go to the bar.
Oh, right, okay.
And so I was explaining that having been guided as I grew up by both my father and my stepfather. My stepfather was a stockbroker who was a corporate animal who was very, very keen on the idea of the firm, of the salary, of the pension, of the company car, and he thought that was the only way forward. Couldn't understand why anyone would want to become a sole trader, to have the risk, the lack of protection that involved. And my dad, who had been a solicitor working with his own father for many years, was able to tell me exactly what was wrong with that model. As I say, advised me to go to the bar, and I've never regretted that. And that's always been the best advice I've had.
Okay, all right. Question number 20 is, what job would you be terrible at?
I think you have to refer back to question 1 in that regard. Any job that isn't this job. I have my skill set is strictly limited. Always has been and always will be. So yeah, any job that wouldn't be this one. In particular, I would have to say being a conveyancer. I mean, that is one thing I had a little exposure to as a trainee. And when I say a little, I had one day in the conveyancing department when the conveyancing partner brought me into her office and said, I haven't really got anything for you to do. So I think if you just pull up a chair, you can watch me work for the day. And I sat and watched her conveyance for a whole day, at the end of which an all-staff memo went round the firm I was training at saying the litigation partner in the Kirkcaldy office has just resigned with immediate effect. Does anyone have a restricted practice certificate and are happy to go to Kirkcaldy for 6 months? Oh, yes. So that I managed to do conveyancing for one day and one day only, and I've always been very grateful for the opportunity I got from effectively running Kirkcaldy's litigation department, because there's quite a lot of litigation in Kirkcaldy, in certain areas anyway.
Okay, and one day of conveyancing was quite enough for you, was it?
More than enough.
All right. Question 21. What is the weirdest talent that you have?
Probably back to the ability to remember every case I've ever looked at, but the inability to remember somebody that I met 6 minutes ago. It's a very focused and targeted photographic memory I seem to have.
All right. You don't have a party trick or anything like that?
A party trick? No. I'm very, very keen on a little bit of karaoke, but I'm terrible at it.
Okay. And the final question is, what have you enjoyed most about lockdown?
Well, the weather's been nice. And as you can see, I've had to shave less frequently than would ordinarily be the case. But other than that, very, very little. I want this to end so badly. Okay. I've had enough.
Yeah. At the beginning, I mean, did you enjoy the start of it when maybe a couple of weeks into it, or were you at that stage itching to get back?
Yeah, I mean, it has had its interesting aspects and its challenges. Obviously, I mean, in terms of trying to work with the SCTS, the Law Society, and others to try and get justice back moving again. I mean, attempts which, of course, are ongoing. As you well know, we're still not back up and running at all in the criminal sphere, really, and it's still pretty slow in terms of the civil side. So, I mean, that has been very interesting. It's thrown up a whole load of challenges that you could never have foreseen 6 months ago, and that has been intriguing. So, professionally, it's not been too bad, but the Groundhog Day nature of this is not great. I'm not really enjoying that.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you very much. You've successfully completed the quiz, and I think you did so pretty unscathed. I hope it wasn't too difficult a challenge for you. And we're really grateful to you, Roddy. That's the really interesting answers, and I'm sure will give people an insight into you, the person, rather than perhaps the lawyer that we're more familiar with. So thank you so much for doing that. Just before we go, can I ask you to nominate someone else to take this quiz?
You can indeed. Suzanne Tanner QC, I think, will be a very entertaining participant in your quiz, and I commend her to you.
All right, well, thank you very much. And thank you again for your time, and enjoy the rest of the sunshine.
Thanks, Edith. Stay safe.
Okay.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Hey Legal Quiz. We are releasing more episodes weekly, so please sign up for free to Hey Legal on our website to access our free content, legal updates and more. Plus follow us on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram and on all podcasting platforms.